I'm very honored to serve on the Judiciary Committee in this body. And during the last couple of years, there have been very difficult years in how the Department of Justice has been managed. We've seen abuses of civil liberties in the name of trying to protect the rights of our citizens. When we've abused the rights of our citizens, we've found that the Department of Justice tried to justify the use of torture in this country, the manner in which detainees were treated, the politicizing of the Department of Justice, and Mr. President, I could go on and on and on. So I want to thank Eric Holder for being willing to serve the public once again as President-elect Obama's nominee for the next Attorney General of the United States. I think Eric Holder is the right person at the right time for the Department of Justice, and I hope that his confirmation process will move forward. We need an independent Attorney General. During the Bush administration, we found that they politicized the Department of Justice in the firing of U.S. attorneys and decisions as to whether to proceed with criminal investigations, and the list goes on and on and on. Eric Holder has demonstrated throughout his entire career the type of independence that we need in the next Attorney General of the United States. Mr. President, let me just give you one example. When the independent counsel who was investigating the President of the United States asked for additional authority, Eric Holder was the one who made that recommendation to proceed, even though it was not popular at all for the President of the United States. It's that type of independence that we need in the next Attorney General of the United States, and the experience. And he brings a broad experience as a former judge, as a former U.S. attorney, and from the private sector. We need to take politics out of the Department of Justice. During the Bush administration, we found that politics was so much interwoven into the personnel decisions made within the Department of Justice affecting career attorneys. Now, that's not permitted, but it was done. And we need the next Attorney General to be one that will make sure that politics has no place in those types of personnel decisions. Eric Holder, again, his career has shown his willingness to carry out his responsibilities in a non-political way. He has handled major public corruption cases as a U.S. attorney against both Democrats and Republicans. He understands the responsibilities of the Department of Justice. We need a next Attorney General to reestablish the premier role of the Department of Justice in the Civil Rights Division. Civil Rights Division historically has been the key agency to protect the civil rights of the people of this nation. We need the next Attorney General to reestablish that within the Department of Justice. Once again, Eric Holder has demonstrated that sensitivity that will restore the Department of Justice's role in protecting the voting rights for all Americans. And the list goes on and on and on. Bottom line is, the next Attorney General must restore the reputation of the Department of Justice. And I believe he's that right person, but it's not just me. Let me just read from some of the record that has been presented to the Judiciary Committee. Both law enforcement and civil rights groups support Eric Holder. The Fraternal Order of Police writes that our members reported that they found Judge Holder and U.S. Attorney Holder an able and aggressive prosecutor. The Leadership Conference on Civil Rights, which is a group of our major civil rights advocates in this country, said, and I quote, "Mr. Holder's various experience as a trial attorney, judge, prosecutor, and lawyer in private practice make him uniquely qualified to run the Department of Justice. It would be difficult to find a candidate more experienced in the department or better suited to lead it. His background will render him ready to lead the department from day one. His even-mindedness and sound judgment will ensure that justice is dispensed fairly and equitably. His professional accomplishments and ability to put partisan politics aside make him above reproach. His commitment to the rule of law makes him the ideal candidate for the nation's top prosecutor," end quote. Now, that's the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights, which again is comprised of the premier groups in this country that are out there fighting for the rights of the people of this country. I would also draw my colleagues' attention to a January 7th, 2009 letter received by the Judiciary Committee from several former high-level Department of Justice officials in the Republican administration. And I quote from that letter. They write, "We are pleased to be able to write in support of Eric Holder, a man who stands with the most qualified who have been privileged to be nominated to be Attorney General of the United States. President-elect Obama's nomination of Eric as the historic appointment of the first African-American Attorney General should be hailed as a milestone. He is an extraordinary lawyer and even a better person," end quote. Mr. President, we need to move forward immediately in the leadership in the Department of Justice. I would just urge my colleagues, let's move forward on the confirmation process as quickly as possible. I look forward to Eric Holder being the next Attorney General of the United States, and I hope that we will do that very, very shortly.